皆さんこんにちは。美穂と葵の海外生活チャンネルへようこそ。
Hello everyone! Welcome to Miho and Aoi's channel. 今日は英語で雑談シリーズ、時事ネタでもあるオリンピックについて話してみたいと思います。
イエーイ
So we found this Facebook post that's talking about how Japan's women's gymnastics captain is out of Paris Games for smoking. The subheadline goes, Miyata had been expected to lead a team comprised entirely of first-time Olympians and teenagers after she secured her Paris berth in May. And the comments and stuff goes, B19, smoke a cigarette, kicked out of a French Olympics, and a skull mark. Which means that people think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, especially when the French people are notorious for smoking a lot of cigarettes.
And their legal age is like 18, right? And then there are people commenting on the post saying that it's kind of ridiculous that you are Olympian, which is such a crazy achievement. But then you be in a foreign country. Of course, Japanese legal age for cigarettes are 20. So of course it's illegal for the Japanese national to smoke outside of Japan under 20. But at the same time, the French legal age is 18. So it shouldn't be a big deal. Technically. So I think that's why people are like making fun of Japan mostly.
Yeah, on top of this stereotype of Japanese culture, which is very strict and everybody follows the rules, and like Japanese school rules that's being very strict. Although not the legal age to smoke cigarette is a law, so it's not like too serious of a strictness, but still like people's like this idea of Japan, like you can never break the rules, and French, they're always smoking, like those two combinations. And the like Miho said, the very big achievement of being an Olympian and taken away of that opportunity for not following that one rule was kind of like a big deal. And that's why I think people had a lot of opinions. And this post had a lot of comments.
Yeah, so the top comment that says, they said, I mean, it's part of their code of conduct, which she was all aware of. I mean, I mean, if you're 19 years old in France, that's something you're kind of expected to do. That's what they mean, probably. And then there are like a lot of people liking this comment, so I guess it's a funny humor. And another person said probably because the legal age to smoke or drink in Japan is 20 years old, which is a very
valid point.
This is a valid point. Yes, that is why she got kicked out of the team, I believe.
Yeah, so some of the comments are just like, oh yeah, she broke the rule, so yeah, that's why she got kicked out. Like what more to that? So the next person says that yeah, it was a team rule, she knew the rules, she violated the rules. What do you think was the natural consequence? So yeah, she broke the rule, she's out of the team. But I think the reason why this news, just one Japanese athlete, became kind of like a viral news is because not many other countries would think that would be just one big reason, like a big enough reason to kick out the athlete. Especially she was the leader of the team.
Another person says, to be clear, she wasn't kicked out by the Olympics committee. She was kicked out from the Japanese team as they apparently have a team rule against smoking or drinking alcohol. Which is very, I don't think it's crazy to have that kind of rule. I mean, athletes are, serious professional. It's not a crazy rule to have, so that's understandable.
The next person explains there are two problems here. One, an Olympic athlete in Japan is expected to be a role model to young people. Smoking is not setting a good example or being a good role model. Two, a person under 20 in Japan cannot legally buy or smoke cigarettes, so although the law law is often not so strictly enforced. Technically, it would be a crime for a 19-year-old to smoke. Again, this isn't being a good role model. Japanese society is very focused on appearances and image, public honor. It's not so surprising they would suspend her. Which, sounds like this person knows a little bit about the Japanese, social, cues or, social norms, I think.
Oh, yeah. He's very aware of how Japan is, I guess.
Yeah, so... drug in Japan is a huge crime, and in America a lot of people do drugs and or commit other crimes, and actors, they come back to the TV, but which almost never happens in Japan because that person is kind of socially done if some person commits crime, and then yeah, some people might say Japan is not that forgiving, and America is gives other opportunities and gives chances to come back and live their life again. But I think that's different culture.
Oh yeah, I think it's partly coming from Christianity. Everybody had committed a sin, and you deserve a second chance. You're just lost kind of mentality, I think.
Right. Oh, that's a really good point.
And another person commented, France should let her compete under their flag for her commitment to the Gallic way of life. That's very funny.
So the Gallic way of life is very French way of life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, similar one is another person says, Russian athletes laughing their butt off right now.
I mean, they would be smoking and drinking and doing everything, so... The other person who commented said, nothing screams Japan like blind enforcing of arbitrary rules without any regard to circumstances, logic, or basic human decency. I like this country, plenty of good going on, but can't count the number of times any flexibility or consideration was thrown out of the window for the sake of the rules. No matter if they are 300 plus years old and make no sense in the modern world.
Yeah, that might be, some stereotype of Japanese culture, not bending, kind of almost like a samurai sort of culture that people would expect Japan to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to be fair, it's kind of true sometimes.
Mm-hmm. So. Which is, it can be a very good thing that, people can trust Japanese rules because everybody follows. But at the same time, it can also be some negative connotation to that, Japanese rules are not flexible. If you make one mistake, there's no coming back. Another person replies to the comment saying, I thought smoking was required in France for anyone over 10 years old. Which is obviously a joke.
But it feels like that, yes.
Yeah.
So another person commented, this is ridiculous. It's one thing to discourage people from smoking, but this is a slap in the face. It has nothing to do with sports. The girl has trained her whole life just to be told that having a cigarette to calm her nerves disqualifies her from something she earned. There is no true merit given to anything but blind obedience. Years of hard work to get her here. Who has the right to tell her a cigarette to calm her nerves should make all the time and effort meaningless? Who should have such power? A cigarette is not a hate speech. A cigarette is not a crime. A cigarette is not performance enhancing. They owe this girl an apology.
Yeah, so, we thought this comment is kind of might be a little different from how most of the Japanese people think. And one, it was, in a sense, a crime in Japan, right? If, people smoke in Japan underage. So, yeah, that's another thing that I kind of wanted to talk about. And also, it's kind of I also followed up about this, the team. They did really good without the leader, right? So yeah, that's another thing that we kind of found out later on that there might have been another issues, around it. So, we obviously don't know what was actually happening, but yeah, it's one thing that it's, we can never know the truth with just one post. But yeah, we're just with this video, we're just talking about what other people are commenting on the article.
Yeah, this is like very interesting, and I feel like some people would feel different about this, but I got an impression that Japan is better at separating somebody's behavior from their work because oh my god, I don't know if this is a good topic to talk about, but for example, I think in the US it's very important to be a decent person, to be like successful as a business person. So like, you know, usually like, you know, the CEO of a big company to be like cheating or like having mistresses or like having multiple families and stuff, but that's like very common in Japanese business people. I felt like this incident is a little bit different, right? It's like somebody's like years and years of work and commitment to the sports versus smoking a cigarette, which is not a crime, but like it's a misconduct, and that's affecting that work, which I find it interesting. I mean, like, you know, like Elon Musk, he has a lot of families and getting married, getting divorced, like naming the kids weird names and all the stuff, or like Donald Trump, you know, he's a convicted felon. So of course it might not be true, it might be like US or Japan, they are all the same, just maybe man gets no, I can't say that, I cannot say that, no. Okay, no, I'll shut up.
I think another thing which came to my mind was this saving face culture. Yeah, so it's, you know, it couldn't been, I don't know if I can even come up with other example of this incident, but you know, this is not just about this one athlete, but about this team, about this coach, about this, like, you know, Japan Olympic Committee versus like International Olympic Committee, like how the Japan looks in the world, you know, in this incident. I think this, one athlete maybe became, I wouldn't say, you know, she was the scapegoat. You know, there must have been a lot of things associated with this incident. So, there might or might not have been enough reason for her to be kicked out of the team, but couldn't be a scapegoat for like a lot of other things that was associated with someone's face.
Yeah, I mean, like, I can see how all the other Japanese people around the team don't want the image of Japan breaking the rule and still competing. Because like at the end of the day, I feel like Japan really values the professionalism or like being the, how to say, what it means to be a professional is such a, I think it has such a strong meaning to anybody Japanese, because like, for example, the judo person incident, that was also from the professionalism, right? People are so mad at the other counterpart from Spain because he broke the rule. And like, to Japanese people, being a professional or professional athlete or you know, artisan or whatever that's supposed to be like who has expertise in the field is supposed to be very serious and like professional and like following all the rules. And I don't know, I think yeah
I really agree with that. You know, like that, you know, we can go back in like many years about like the Bushido, you know, like Nitobe Inazo, you know, like wrote about it in English because he thought that's like kind of like a characteristics of Japanese culture, and you know, which we never know if it actually was the case in the samurai era, but you know, Nitobe Inazo branded in a way that this is Japanese, like in a way of professionalism, that you have to be very like, you know, transparent, and you know, you have to like be the role model. So that's kind of like, in a way, might be like still haunting us, but at the same time, you know, I really value that as well. Like I always like, you know, follow the rules, and which, you know, we can talk about like other videos, but sometimes following all the rules doesn't really work in the US, which we are kind of learning. You know, like the other day I went to this administration office and I followed all the rules and still didn't work, and you know, they told me like, oh, you should have done that beforehand, or you know, like something like that. So yeah, I still value this like virtue of like, you know, following rules, you know, like being the role model, being a very honest person. but at the same time might be a little bit of a burden for us sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know. Like following the rules work only if everybody follows the rule.
Right.
So that's how I feel.
Yeah.
So in Japan, it makes sense to follow the rules because you can expect everybody else to do the same, and then we can rely on other people to follow the rules, so the society works.
True.
And that's usually the most efficient way. But when there are rules, but people don't follow it, then whoever are following the rules are the ones who need to sacrifice or compromise.
Right.
So I feel like you gotta be flexible depending on where you are. And of course, you shouldn't be breaking a law because that would get you in actual trouble. But like unspoken rules and stuff like that, I think I don't know. Outside of Japan, you kind of have to be flexible about it if you don't wanna, I don't know, lose.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really, really good point. I totally agree with that. Yeah, so we thought this is, like really one of the good examples showcasing like how the Japanese like common sense, comes through in other countries' context. So yeah, I thought it's a really interesting topic to talk about in English.
Oh, yeah, please let us know if you have any other topics or other instance maybe during Olympics that we can talk about, and then find the perspectives of non-Japanese people, so it'll be educational for everybody. Yeah, thank you so much for listening, and see you in the next video.
Bye bye.